Hello, and welcome to the North Country Behavioral Healthcare Network Frontline Worker Series, focusing on the people and services that are supporting the North Country during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we are speaking with Wahieñhawi, who is a licensed social worker with the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe, Office of Mental Health in Akwesasne, New York. Now, as you can already tell, I'm having some difficulty in pronouncing Wahieñhawi's name as it is spoken in her native tongue. So let me introduce you to her, and she will give us coaching on how to proceed with that and tell us a little bit about the services that are available on the Akwesasne Reservation in Akwesasne, New York. Welcome.
Thank you. So Wahieñhawi Yungyats, which means Wahieñhawi is my name. I tend to go by Howie here in the workplace. It's a little simpler to say and shorter for our clients. I work for the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe, our Office of Mental Health, and I actually am operating underneath our Garrett Lee Smith Tribal Youth Suicide Prevention Grant. So at this point, I am supervising our school-based therapist, school-based case manager, and our school-based admin assistant. So currently here out of our health services building, there are two of us, myself and my supervisor, that are still here full-time in the office. All of our therapists are working from home full-time, and we are still providing services via telemental health for phone or video sessions, depending on the client's preference. Our services are limited to enrolled members of the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe due to our funding sources, but we are really excited that we're able to provide all of the services that we've done before, apart from obviously the face-to-face aspects of it. We do also have within our program a traditional medicines worker who is also part of our essential worker staff and working from home and doing what he can to provide traditional support in our native cultural ways to any members of our community that are also seeking those kinds of supports, as opposed to more Western kind of talk therapy or evidence-based practices.
Very good. So I do want to come back to the specific cultural types of medicine, but let me kind of work through the traditional stuff. So it sounds like you are supervising a team of therapists or counselors that are actually in normal times located in schools. Is that correct? How many school sites do you folks service?
So we work directly with the Salmon River School District. And so at this point, we have somebody in the St. Regis Mohawk School that is here on the territory, and then also the Salmon River School servicing pre-K through 12 at the Salmon River Central School. And then at St. Regis Mohawk School, it's pre-K through 5th. So we have just those two sites.
Howie, during this last 6 to 8 weeks that we've been under this very unique and once in a lifetime situation with the COVID-19 shutdown, what are you hearing from your counseling staff about the challenges that they're hearing and facing with their student clients?
So I myself am still seeing some of the youth that I also was servicing before this. So our caseloads have significantly decreased. A lot of our clients that were school-based and youth that were struggling with anxiety surrounding school and school circumstances now are doing surprisingly well because there's no school and those stresses are removed. However, we are seeing a pretty decent influx in symptoms of anxiety related to being at home, having to do the schoolwork at home, some of obviously the COVID concerns that are going on. Sometimes if there already was family conflict and issues that were stressors before, those are even exacerbated now. So those are kind of what we're seeing the typical influx in at this point. A lot of what we're working with parents on, and some of the teens even that we're working with, are getting them onto the routines, keeping them on a routine, setting a schedule for them, being able to kind of balance out their days, and being able to kind of keep a total comprehensive picture in terms of wellness for themselves, especially since there's so much time at home now, being able to make sure that they're addressing not only their emotional and mental health, but their physical and their spiritual health as well.
Does the counseling services that you folks provide also bring in family members, parents, specifically parents?
Absolutely. So we actually do have, for our school-based clients, a lot of them are elementary age. And so with the virtual switch for therapy, it's becoming a little bit of a challenge because a lot of what we did with those clients was play and interactive kind of treatments. And so now having to work alongside parents even more closely, because we made sure to do that in the past, but more closely now, because even though we can do some stuff virtually through the screen and do different games through the screen, a lot of it is going to be working with the parents so that they can learn different tools that they can implement at home and try to help do some of the more therapeutic interventions in the home-based setting. So it is a little bit of a difference and a shift for us.
Right. Are you hearing, so one of the things we want to do on this focusing on the frontline workers is really talk about the kind of the work that you do kind of on an everyday basis. Is what are you hearing from, or are you hearing anything from your counseling staff about the impact on them or on you in this change of modality, this change from the personal interactive to this more remote type of contact? What do what's the feedback you're getting from your staff?
So one of the benefits I think that is coming out of being virtual now is that we have a much less rate of no-shows for appointments.
We've heard that.
It's easier for people to attend sessions. It's in their home. They can kind of be comfortable as they're in session. And so that's been a huge plus for us. We've been able to engage with people more consistently than we have in the past at times. One of the challenges that I know is something that us youth therapists are really working with, and I don't know that it's as big of a struggle for the therapists that work primarily with adults, but is, like I said, the engagement piece. We're so used to, as youth therapists, being up and moving and on the go and playing games. And so my day consisted, when I worked as a school-based therapist, constantly interacting, right? I might sit for a 30 to 40 minute session with a teen as opposed to play with them. But for the most part, we're moving, we're interacting, we're dynamic. And so I think a huge struggle for a lot of us right now is now it's sitting for most of the day in front of a computer, typing, making phone calls. And although it's still seeing faces, it's absolutely not the same. It's a different kind of mental taxing and strain than I've ever experienced before.
No hugging.
No hugging.
Yeah, that's what we've heard from our member agencies, that hugging and personal contact, physical personal contact between professionals and clients, whether it's a handshake, a pat on the back, or if it's a kid, it's a hug, whatever, that's a tough adjustment. We're getting near the end of our time. First of all, I want to again thank you for joining us today. I want to talk a little bit about you personally and your personal motivations, if I can, Howie.
Sure.
So there's kind of two questions here. What is what keeps you coming in? What's the reward? Nobody's in this to get rich. Nobody's in this because they're drawing down a great big paycheck. What is it that brings you into work every day? And on those tough days, what is it that when you sit in the car and you want to cry, what is it that's made you feel that way?
So what it is that keeps me coming and what it was that drove me into this profession to begin with was my own experience in growing up in a Native community and all of the different stressors and traumas that happen to most Natives in our communities, I myself experienced. And so having gone through my own dark past and healing process, I understood the importance of having a trusted adult and somebody you could confide in that I didn't have when I was a teenager. And so that's what drives me every day to keep coming into work, is knowing that I still have clients that are reaching out for support that don't talk to anybody aside from their therapist or myself. And what continues to kind of keep me motivated now during this time are those small accomplishments of my clients. When I suggest to clients the schedule stuff and we work closely on some of the mindfulness aspects or the cognitive restructuring pieces, and they actually implement them because they're home and have time, to see the tremendous gains and the satisfaction and happiness return to their lives, the elimination of suicidal thoughts, all of these things that are that's what keeps me going. Absolutely. And being able to be here and support when somebody calls in, because I also am helping to redirect clients to a primary therapist if they're coming in to engage in therapy for the first time now. Being able to help be that first point of contact for somebody and give them the reassurance that, yes, absolutely, we're still here. We're more than happy to work with you. It's a little bit changed as opposed to how it was before, but we're absolutely still here. So I think being able to be that hope for people is still absolutely my driving force.
That's great. That's wonderful. So just to finish up, I was wondering if you can share with us a little bit about the culturally unique medicine and therapy that is available to the Native community at Akwesasne that would be very different than what we would see in traditional Western medicine.
Sure. So part of what a lot of our therapists actually do is kind of incorporate the concept of the medicine wheel into our practice. And so using the idea that there's at least four aspects to each person, right? And so for us, using the idea of mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical, which I had mentioned earlier. And although the medicine wheel is more of a Western concept, it's really kind of helpful in tying our cultural kind of beliefs into therapy. And so helping people understand that we're a whole picture here. There's different components to us that we need to make sure that we're addressing on a day-to-day basis. And so depending on the client and where they're at and their level of interest, because we also have a broad spectrum of religious and faith beliefs here on our territory. We do have people that attend church regularly, and that's their preference. And then we have people that don't really do any kind of spiritual or religious practices. And then we have some that belong to our more traditional culture here and our practices and beliefs associated with that. And so if that is something they're interested in or are connected to, we have our worker here that works with us, and we refer to him to kind of provide some of that knowledge, some of that understanding underneath our grant that we got for the Garrett Lee Smith Tribal Youth Suicide Prevention Grant. One of our plans was to hire a support worker for him so that he could have more help in being able to do more outreach and more education, because there are so many aspects of our cultural stories and our past that are so beautiful in terms of even if there were to be challenges in a marriage, for example, our wedding vows that are said in our traditional language when someone gets married talks about not only the responsibility of each person in that relationship, but also of the community to help support them whenever there's challenges, to help be there and to be kind of that loving force for them to carry them through should they need it. So there's so many cultural components in our language and our traditions that can serve as kind of reminders in our connection to the greater world, to the spirit world, to nature, to everything. And as we know, in a lot of grounding techniques, being able to kind of go outside in nature is a huge piece and feel all of the senses of the wind and seeing the movements of the trees. And a big part of our culture also is giving thanks and mourning for creation. So being able to understand and tie in those pieces for some people are incredibly valuable can really be kind of a big connecting force back to our culture.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. And what a great opportunity to have that diversity in approaches based on the needs of the folks that you're working with. Okay, we're at the end of our time. I want to thank you again, Howie. We didn't plan this ahead of time, so let me just ask you, would you be comfortable in signing off in your native language?
Sure. So typically what we say is just kind of thank you and ona, which is bye. But I'll just kind of do a quick little greeting and then say that. So
great.
Sego sewa gwego, nyawa, denu ona.
Thank you. I'm Barry Brogan, and this is the North Country Behavioral Healthcare Network Frontline Worker Series. Thank you for joining us.